indestructible Lauren DeMiche. So here we are in the group, and let me get my monitor screen up. It's cold in Pittsburgh today. I'm waiting for springtime. I mean, it's not snowing, but it's not hot out. So where are we at? While I'm waiting for the monitor screen to come up, let me do a quick screen share and tell you where you can find some help for things with Ableton Live music production. Where can I find some help? Here's the Mixatexture members site. This is a free site that's free to join. You don't need to sign up with it. There is no credit card or anything. You can just put in your name and email address and get some stuff like free Ableton resources, meaning effects presets and things about how the site works, how you can collect points, unlock members, discounts, all kind of fun stuff like that. And then all these different ones are available courses for you. There's Escape the 8-bar loop. There's the basics of EQ. There's Harmony. Learning Harmony is a new one that I'm building in progress right now. That's a lot of fun. All of them have more information at the Learn More button that tells you a little bit about, what version of Ableton you need and what's included. And then when you want to sign up, they're available at Pay What You Want. So you go down to the little sign up button and you can pick out what you want to donate or whatever to the site. And speaking of donations, there's also the Patreon monthly support, where when you click on Patreon, it takes you to a different sign up window because it's a different platform. But the point is you get access to this archive of custom sounds and instruments. So that means effects racks, basses, subs, drum racks, all with really interesting macro mapped controls that give you a way to customize them. So it's not like you're just getting presets to sound like me. You're getting interesting sounds that are fun to play with that you can tweak live on your tracks. And really develop your own sound to be something cool that is yours and not like anybody else. So click to expand the monitor window. Boink. And let me get into live. All right, so we should have full screen up in here. And let's get a quick listen on where we're at with this track. Just making sure audio is coming through there. Ooh, that effects rack is taken off. Now, if you can see on the board, I split this out to a couple analog channels so I could easily show you what is happening in here. So let me loop the chorus section and kind of do a review of where we're at. Okay. Say hi when you get here. Let me know where you're coming from, how you're doing, and all that kind of thing. So here is a chorus loop, and there it is. Here's our vocal group. It's all that I feel to this suffering. That's just the vocal group with a nice big reverb. So last time, just for a quick review, Lauren gave me a bunch of stems that I put into the track and got them grouped. So we've got verses. You can see there's markers up at the top of the track for verse, chorus, that kind of thing. And I'm not seeing anybody in the thing. Let me just check and make sure that I'm not missing something, because I think the audio is coming through. I think the video is coming through, but usually there's more people. So in case I was just getting a message that something was weird. Okay, that's not that. So there we go. All right, say hi if you're here. Let me know if you have any questions and everything. What we did first was I put the verses and the chorus sections into groups. So you can see, like, when there's a verse marker, that block, this block is the verse, and that block is verse 2. And we've got a couple channels of each one for layering. And then in the chorus section, we've got a few layers of chorus vocals that towards the end of the track, they stack up and there's some interesting stuff happening. So what I did first was I was asking the question, why do we need verse and chorus in different layers? So I listened to them, got them panned in the stereo field so it makes sense. So I listened to them and identified, okay, what's the lead vocal, right? Channel 11 is like the lead vocal. And then the other ones were a support background vocals, so I got those panned left and right. I went through each one and I cleaned them up using a gate to cut out stuff in time, glue compressor to control dynamics, a little bit of auto tuning, but I didn't actually need very much of that at all because we have a good singer, and she even did some of her own vocal comping, which I could show you in a little bit. Same thing on the chorus. Notice on the channels, I didn't drop a ton of plugins. I basically went to the group level, So I have the 3 chorus tracks in the group. You can see there's a center one on 16, 15, and 17 are panned. And then on the group rack, I just needed a little high pass filter at 200 because female vocal range on this example, it didn't go much below that. And then a little bit of EQ, de-esser, compression, and I played around with some widening effects like micro shift from Sound Toys. It looks like this. And the wider plugin from Polyverse that we were playing with. I know I said I was going to do all Ableton plugins, but I want to show you the things that I play with for widening effects. And the overall result that I was going for was to get the vocal group and the chorus group coming together into the vocal bus so that they both sound good, they're at the same level, they achieve what we need in the song to communicate the feeling of the lyrics, the meaning of the melody, the whole thing has to come through loud and clear. And then when we play it all together, it's going to sound something like this. Let's go from the first verse section. Let me unmute all my layers of the track.
I ask you, are you tired? Walking through this fire, burn away no longer, that which makes us stronger.
And that little I had a conversation.
Stop recreating. Undistanced illusion leading to.
I had a conversation with Lauren about what she was doing with the breaths and what she thought, and she agreed that you don't need to cut out every single breath in between every word. It's better to keep a lot of the natural feel of the vocalist because she's the kind of singer who she's like, a lot of the stuff she's emphasizing, she was using her breathing like a rhythmic instrument. And she said, hey, when we get to the chorus, leave that stuff in because a lot of that vocal stuff it's not words. It's just like that kind of stuff that makes a lot of feel. So let's listen to that in the chorus.
Undistanced illusion leading to this suffering, leading in, it's all that I feel, leading in to this suffering, leading in, it's all that is real.
Listen to the. Now I want you to listen to just the breaths in between the words. So we can hear the words, we can hear the lyrics, the melody and everything, but let's just listen to what she's doing in between the words to make it feel like, wow, this is a total human experience.
Illusion leading in to this suffering, leading in, it's all that I feel, leading in to this suffering, leading in, it's all that is real.
There's a lot of like, in between. I think it's so cool. It's rhythmic. I'm really glad she pointed it out and got my attention on it because it makes it more fun to play with. And there's a million ways to mix vocals for what the audience is doing. Like if you're mixing a pop album, you might not want any of that in there. You might want it to be like super pro, super clean. Every photograph is photoshopped. Everything is perfect. Every hair is in place. Yeah, there's a time for that. But in this situation, that's not what I wanted to do. So I did not go hyper crazy with deleting every little football-shaped inhale, like right here. Those little things, you call them footballs. I call them footballs, whatever. It's like the inhale in between all that stuff. So up until now, we got our sounds grouped, and they're both coming over to the vocal bus. Then what I did was I wanted to get a plate reverb, and this was kind of fun. I wanted to use the Ableton reverb and make something that sounded like a plate. And in case you don't know, a plate reverb is actually a huge piece of metal, like a very thin piece of metal, and you send sound into it, and it vibrates and makes this shimmery reverb that you can mic with a microphone to record the sound of the plate afterwards. It's really cool. It's a cool acoustic kind of echoing sort of thing. Imagine if you have like one of those big sheets of metal that they used to use for making the sound of thunder where you shake it and it goes whoa, 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 whoa. It's like one of those, like a really thin piece of metal. So let's listen to a little reverb. That's dry.
Suffering, leading in, it's all that is real.
Listen to that decay time. This is the little plate reverb from Sound Toys that you can usually get on sale a couple times a year. It might be on sale for 29 bucks right now. I'm not sure, but grab it if you can. It's a really easy way to dial in a great reverb sound. 100% wet, a little bit of low cut, even though I'm not putting very much low in there. You know, I wanted to make sure it's not rumbly down bottom. So just listen to the tail and the decay time on this plate reverb.
To this suffering.
It sounds like it's just going away for a really long time. So that's one example of a plate reverb. Now let's check out the convolution reverb from Max 4 Live.
To this suffering.
Again, I got a little bit of EQ on there. Let's select a longer time. Let's go to like 4.5 seconds.
To this suffering.
Okay, so we got a nice long decay time. A little bit of he comes here. How would you describe that reverb in the world of reverbs? Is it like, think of a word that describes the texture of it. And now I'm going to put on the Ableton reverb that I dialed in, trying to copy that plate type sound.
To this suffering.
Okay, right away I hear that the decay time was too short on mine, so let's boost this up.
To this suffering.
Oh, I almost got a disc overload there. I'm not sure if I have the perfect word for it. A plate reverb sounds a little bit metallic and a little bit washy, if I could say so. Like if you got a selection of different reverbs you're familiar with, there are things called room reverbs that usually have a sound that's almost more like a delay, where it slaps back and it's like an echo, like fr, 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 fr. And those are great for drums because it feels like a tight space where the sound is bigger and thicker and wider and louder. And it's almost like having two copies of the drums with a real like a pair of dry sounds. Plate reverb is not like that. Plate reverb is that big washy sound, but it's not the same as something like in a gymnasium or a cathedral where those big empty rooms are like not defined. They can be kind of like woomy, like woo, where the reverb builds up so much that you can't really understand what the person is saying. So plate reverb is not a natural space. It's a mechanical object that is manipulated with electronics or with an electric input and then microphone. So anyway, how does this sound? Does this sound like a plate reverb with the Ableton stock one?
To this suffering.
Enrique.
His call that is real. Leaning to this suffering. Leaning in.
And remember, with the Ableton reverb, you have a cool choice of setting the volume for the early reflections and then for the long diffusions. Good morning, Enrique, wizard of making sound. We're talking about how to make the type of a plate reverb using the Ableton stock plugs. So first, what I'm going to do is turn up the early reflections and feel how that is.
To this suffering, leaning in his call that
now, how are the diffusions?
Leaning in to this.
And I like it when it sounds kind of like a big bloom of reverb around the sound, but then it doesn't decay for 100 million years. Like this one can go up really long, right? Now that's kind of unrealistic. 30 seconds of sound just continuing along. It's almost like a synth. It's like making a vocal synth, which can be cool as hell. You can definitely do some great sound design with long reverb times. But let's keep this down to under 4 seconds. Bring the early reflections back up to make that sound of like a big voice that's coming right at you, and it has a little bit of a tail on it.
To this suffering, leaning in his call that is real. Leaning in to this suffering, leaning in, it's all that I feel.
Yeah, Enrique, I know what you mean. I pulled up a Sound Toys little plate reverb, and then I just mapped a little controller to switch them on. Let's A/B this Ableton reverb.
To this suffering, leaning in his call that is real. Leaning in to this suffering,
I think that's close enough to work. It's maybe not exactly like it. The last little change I did was to EQ the high end down a little bit to get a slightly darker sound. And now let's do a little bit of mix. Oh no, we also did delay on there, right? Yeah, 12, 15, cool, plenty of time. So the other thing I did was added a delay return, not to copy the sound all the time, but to use it as like a special effect send. So the return is on aux return C. The delay effect is on aux return C. We've got the echo plugin, go into a compressor limiter. Watch what's going to change on here. The feedback's going to change, and the filter's going to change a little bit. And what's going into this? That's the question. Oh, we've got verses with automation on send to C and choruses. The way I built this was I went through and listened and mapped a controller on there, and I wanted to send little spikes of sound into the delay to fill up the space. So let's check out what some of those sound like. We'll go from verse 1.
I ask you, will you tire? Walking through this fire, burn away no longer that which makes us stronger.
You got that? Let's check that one more time.
Burn away no longer that which makes us stronger.
All right, so I just put it, what I like to do with delay in this kind of situation is pick out one word that is good to echo in your mind, like stronger, right? So when you're listening to it in context of the whole mix, maybe you're not even aware that you're hearing delay, but you get that one word. So here it comes at volume with the whole track.
Ask you, will you tire? Walking through this fire, burn away no longer that which makes us stronger.
I think I'm having,
Stop recreating.
having a,
On distance,
there we go.
illusion leading to this suffering. Leading, it's all that I feel.
And here comes some delay at the end of the chorus that's going to fill up that empty space. And let me take the reverb out because I really want to hear the difference between the delay and the reverb, okay? So this is this one little spike we're looking at right there. That is aux send C coming from the chorus vocal group. And there's a little bit of it coming up. Let's listen to how that sounds. So what I did there was I took a little tiny slice of the vocal when she's going, oh, that is real, bop, and it goes doop, and it catches that little snip going bop, 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 and that starts coming through the echo plugin, and then the feedback goes up to morph that sound over time to fill up this gap right here after the chorus and before the next verse. There was some empty space, didn't want it to get boring, I wanted to fill it up with something. I didn't really want to do, and I didn't want to like add a new sound or have like a tambourine solo or something dumb like that. So I thought, hey, I'll play with some effects, do a little bit of a delay thing, and hear how it sounds. So maybe we can look at, I'm not sure what would be the best way to illustrate this change. Maybe let's just watch the delay plugin. Okay, so here we go. That right there is the effect send going on. We're gonna hear it come through and watch what happens in the plugin.
All that is real. Truth, it's getting.
And to make it stop, we turn the feedback all the way down. So with the echo plugin, turning the feedback up above 100% gets the echo to repeat and feed back into itself and make that extra sound where it's like growing and kind of taking over. And then we zapped it out right before the next verse came down. So here is a another little problem for us. This verse has a couple layers with sung vocals and spoken vocals. So my next question is, how loud do we want track 13? Take a listen.
Truth, it's getting harder. Oh well, we'll hit it longer. Emasculating desire, arise thy bird of fire. Truth, it's getting harder. Oh well, we'll hit it longer. Emasculating desire.
So what do you think? Tell me if you can hear track 13 with the spoken vocal on there. I haven't actually decided how loud to put this in, and I'm not sure Lauren's watching with us right now. But what I want to do is have it feel like this verse is a little bit different from the first verse, so we have something kind of fun happening, and maybe we'll automate this one up a little bit. But what do you think? Let me know if you have an opinion on how loud that should be.
Truth, it's getting harder. Oh well, we'll hit it longer. Emasculating desire.
That's too loud.
Arise, thy bird of fire. Truth, it's getting harder. Oh well, we'll hit it longer. Emasculating desire. Arise, thy bird of fire.
And maybe we should do something like saturating that spoken vocal. What if we just do a simple way, like turn on the soft clipper and jack it up? Let's try that first of all.
Truth, it's getting harder. Oh well, we'll hit it longer. Emasculating desire. Arise, thy bird of fire.
So it's got some fuzz on there.
Truth, it's getting harder. Oh well, we'll hit it longer. Emasculating desire. Arise, thy bird of fire.
I'm gonna go even farther into that and get something like it's right in front of me. What if we actually do some intentional saturation on 13? This little experiment, I'm not sure if it's gonna sound good or not, but I thought, what can I do with that spoken thing so it's like a little bit more in the front of our attention?
Truth, it's getting harder. Oh well, we'll hit it longer. Emasculating desire. Arise, thy bird of fire.
Okay, that's super fuzzy.
Truth, it's getting harder. Oh well, we'll hit it longer. Emasculating desire. Arise, thy bird of fire.
Nicholas Newhour, how you doing? Let's listen to that in verse 1 and see if it's more interesting than it was before.
I ask you, will you tire? Walking through this fire. Burn away no longer. That which makes us stronger. Purify all that you make.
Unmute the reverb.
Don't stop, we be creating. Take a moment and stay in our distance. Illusion leading to this suffering. Leading it, it's all that I feel. Leading it to this path of rain. Leading it, it's all that is real.
Take it easy, delay. Okay, so I made a little decision with that spoken word thing. I want it underneath the front layer. I don't want it coming out like, here is a person talking. I want it like nestled in there a little bit down. I fuzzed it out with some little distortion on the mid-range so that it's got a texture. Distortion tends to make you more aware of things in the mix. So a little distortion goes a long way. I added some fuzz, tucked it up under there. The reason was when I, the spoken word, the track on 13, when I tried to pull it up louder as a clean sound, it went from like not being present to being too loud, and then I was like, oh, it's distracting me from the singing vocal. I didn't want the tone of the spoken one to conflict with the tone of the singing one, and I want a nice, clean, crisp singing voice. So I thought, oh, I can fuzz out the spoken word thing, give it a different sort of tonal signature. Then I need less volume to make it show up in the mix, and it's not conflicting with the lead vocal. So that was basically my strategy with that. Now I want to point out this group 18, right? It's called Chorus Harmony, and there's 2 tracks in there. Right now, 19 is centered and 20 is panned. What's the story with that? Do I even remember? Well, what I'm doing here is I want to keep all my buses basically stereo centered. So when channel 14 is playing, these 3 tracks have a combined pressure that makes a centered vocal or a centered mix on 14. So there's like a left, a center, and a right. Same thing with 19 and 20, but I can't just stereo pan them because here at the beginning of this chorus, there is a vocal right here and right here. At the end of the chorus, there's a vocal right there and right there. But in the middle, there's this one little piece by itself. And if I leave that pan to the left, when we're at the the middle of this chorus, all of a sudden there's going to be an extra little thing on the left that's out of balance. So what I did was I automated some automation. No, I automated the pan knob. So when we listen to, let me mute the other one. When we listen to just channel 18 as it goes through the chorus, it should stay in stereo balance. So I'm looking at the meters on 18.
It's all that is feeling and into this.
Okay, now it's going to go over to this part in the middle.
Lean and in, it's all that I'm feeling and into this.
Okay, and then back to the third section at the end.
Free.
With lots of breathy extra stuff in there. I love that part. So let's listen to those chorus sections again. I want to mute everything else so we can only hear the chorus, vocals, and effects to really catch what it's like with 5 layers going on.
Ask latent desire.
Okay.
Arise thy bird of fire. Leaning in to this suffering. Leaning in, it's all that I feel. Leaning in to this suffering.
And if you notice, the reason I put these in 2 groups is that track 18 is harmonizing and track 14 is melonizing. Melody.
Ask latent.
Let's just get the chorus again.
Leaning in to this suffering. Leaning in, it's all that I feel.
So she's singing the same note, and I used all 3 of them to stack it up, make it feel thicker, make it feel wider, and get those micro variations where the one voice is kind of doing little things that makes it more interesting. If you only have one vocal from one microphone on one channel in the track, you can make it sound good, but it doesn't sound as big and huge as when you have something triple tracked. So I really dig what she did with this. She gave me a bunch of audio, and she even did some edits to make a composite of some of the tracks. I don't think I put a marker on there. Maybe I should have. But there is a part where you could hear that the audio was edited already.
All that I feel leaning into this suffering.
Not there.
That I feel leaning into this suffering.
I wish I'd marked that. There was a really cool place you could hear it.
Leaning in, it's all that I feel. Leaning in to this suffering. Leaning in to this suffering. Leaning.
Okay. Love that big reverb now.
Leaning in to this suffering. Leaning in, it's all very real.
Right there, where she says all very real. Listen to how that happens.
It's all very real.
She overdubbed, or she took a different take of the word very and pasted it before she even delivered the tracks.
Leaning in, it's all very real.
And I'm cool with that. You know, I mean, when we're listening to the whole thing, it doesn't bother me and it doesn't stick out as being weird or like out of kilter or whatever. So triple tracking, layering, comping, cutting stuff out. There's a ton of little surgeries you can do with vocals. And I'm pretty happy with the end result. I know there are pro engineers that would not accept this at all and would totally be like, oh, Steve, you're stupid. But what I'm trying to do is give you the basic tools for what to listen for, what to hear, how to fix it. And then from there, if you want to go into like $5,000 microphone preamps to get pristine quality sound in a dead silent vocal booth in the middle of the desert with dry air, whatever, you know, there's a lot of detail you can get into on what you want to get in the recording. But you always have to work with what you got, and this is the level I'm at with my studio, so I'm totally down with this. And most of all, the number one thing for me is the emotion, right? Does this voice bring something to the track that makes me want to listen to it again? That's it. I don't care if she recorded it on her phone out of a damn bus station. If I get that feeling and it comes into the track and it sounds good, I'm going to use it because I don't have the rest of my life to save up for, bazillion-dollar tube mics. I'm not waiting. So let's just listen to this whole chorus thing one more time with all these layers. And I started off talking about how come I put the harmony in a different stereo group, because I want to be able to put the harmony louder. So let's see what happens when we do that.
Rise thy bird of fire, leaning in to this suffering, leaning in, it's all that I feel, leaning in
Right there.
to this suffering, leaning in, it's all very real, leaning in to this suffering.
Now what happens? So at the very end, to make an ending for the song, I took a little snippet of the main vocal again, threw it up into aux C. So there's our little tiny snip. Look how tiny that is. That's not a lot of send at all. And I took it from that peak part where her voice is like up at like max level, and then let it fade into the effect. So let's listen to the end of that, because that part's cool. And it takes a while to build up. So that's with the feedback control on the Echo plugin. You turn the feedback up past 100%, it starts self-feeding back and turning into something like an instrument that's rhythmic, that takes whatever you put into it and makes it cooler and starts getting a little distorted, all that kind of thing. Nate Miller, what's happening? Dave Morrissey, how you doing? So let me know if y'all need questions or if you need answers or anything like that. I'm trying to show you how I go about mixing a vocal. Oh my God, sorry. How I go about mixing a vocal to present it in the mix in the song so it sounds really good and does what we need to communicate emotionally, so you can understand the lyrics, feel the tone, have it on top of the instruments, get the details out of there like the breath and everything that you want to feel. And then the final thing is I just want to talk a little bit about how loud the vocal should be in the track. So let me start by getting rid of the vocal, and let's just listen to the music for a minute. So what do we hear? We got beats, effects. Let's meet the characters, okay? Breakbeat, kick drum, bass line, little instrument group. Now, when I was like a beginner mixer, I would have done stuff like this, where I'm like, oh, I love that bass line, I love those beats, yeah, I can hear the voice, yeah, it's all good. But that's not gonna transfer. When you're doing a track where the vocalist is important and you want the voice on top, it's almost like saying the lead vocal should be half of the whole entire song, and then all the other instruments together are surrounding it around her and making it feel like she's in the spotlight. So that's how I'm thinking about this one. So I'm gonna push up this lead vocal to the place where I feel like it should go. I'll start from verse 2 and go into the chorus.
If it's getting harder, well, we'll hit it longer. Masquerading desire, rise thy bird of fire. Leaning in to this.
That's how loud it has to be, like way out front up there.
All that I feel, leaning in to this suffering. Leaning in, it's all very real. Leaning in to this suffering.
And then all the other instruments are sitting around it. I crafted the instrument bus so that things that are happening over here are also not conflicting with the voice. You don't want to have a lead melody that's like exactly on the same, like a lead violin that's exactly competing with the vocal, because compositionally they would just sort of fight with each other. Checking for any other questions. Cool. Sometimes my monitor screen freezes up, so if I miss your questions or comments, I'm sorry about that. It's not on purpose. It's just one of those things that happens during playback. So that's basically what I wanted to show you. And then I have a secret group of Steve vocals where I thought, hey, I'm going to sing on the choir and bring up the chorus. So let's see what that sounds like.
Rise like bird of fire, leaning into this suffering. Lean at it. It's all that I feel. Leaning into this suffering. Leaning in. It's all very real. Leaning into this suffering.
And I don't want that too present in the mix.
All that I feel, leaning into this suffering. Leaning in, it's all that is real.
And we get into that delay effects thing. And every song needs an ending, so I did that thing with the last synth where it goes wah, and comes to a stop, sort of like it's almost like a reverse sound. So there you go. That is what I wanted to do for female vocals. I'm pretty happy with this track. It's a little shorter than I wanted, or that I think is, I mean, it's a cool beat. I like the groove and everything, so maybe 3 minutes is not long enough. I might do, after that big vocal swell, maybe do a bass and drums little jam thing for another minute to just play with the beats, give some bass line, thinking like, oh, if I played this track for a dance floor, at the very least, I want to give the DJ extra space for a remix where they have time to mix another beat and have the dance floor get ready for feeling the track and get ready for it to change. I mean, 87 BPM, it's kind of slow, but it's like a groovy track. So you could, with the right crowd and the right sort of vibe, you could definitely have some people dancing to this. Maybe make like this could be like the album version and then split it up and make it longer, where it's mostly about the drums and bass groove, and then bring in the chorus and the verses in a different sort of arrangement, so that you hear voice, you hear cool sounds, you hear the lyrics and everything, but it's not like verse chorus like it is in the original. So there's a couple options. I don't see anybody else asking questions, so I guess I'm gonna wrap it up a little bit shorter today. I do like to keep these down to 45 minutes if possible. And coming up tomorrow, we're gonna do track feedback on video, which I like. That's turning out to be pretty cool. And then next week, we're going to work on mastering with the track from Mats Moreland. That's a 126 BPM house track that we've been fooling around with, and I made a decent mix. So I think we're going to have Andy Maleks from Estonia do some mastering with us and talk about his thought process and what he does to make it happen. So that's it for me. And finally, if you want to get some more help with Ableton, or even just find some free presets to play around with, check out courses.mixatexture.com. Bunch of lessons in here, a bunch of stuff you can play with, and it will be useful for you in your Ableton production journey. There are things at different levels for different people, so depending on where you're stuck or what you need help with, like if you really want to learn sound design, check out oscillators, filters, all this stuff about learning sound design with Operator that takes you specifically through the things that we find in common on all synthesizers. You're going to find ADSR envelopes, you're going to find LFOs, you're definitely going to find arpeggiators, and these are hands-on lessons where you play with an Ableton project and learn by doing it with instructions that are recorded inside. This is like a picture of the actual lesson. You play from the master channel, you launch the scene, you hear instructions. You see examples with automation, tweaking things, like this one is going to tweak the LFO depth. Then the instructions explain what you heard, how it made that sound, and you get an activity to play it, tweak the knob, see what happens in Operator, make the connection between what you're hearing, how the synth is doing it, and where it's happening in Ableton. That will empower you to make those sounds on your own in any other device you find, and it's really a lot of fun. So that's what I'm all about, is having fun teaching Ableton. And if you have any more questions or comments, type them on in. I'll get to them and reply back to you in a little bit. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let's, what's going to happen when I press play? Let's find out. Nothing. Sometimes that happens. That's it for now. I'll see you a little bit later on.